Hey everyone, it's Hannah. I wanted to quickly ask if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way in getting the show in front of other listeners. If you listen on a platform that doesn't do reviews, please follow us on social media, like the show, or leave a comment. Thank you. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, I'm an adult. I didn't laugh through all of that.
Whew, I was holding my breath.
Me too. For the first little bit, then I was like, wait, I'm not going to laugh. I'm okay. Everything's good.
You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome back! I closed my eyes for that one.
I did too.
I started to try and find something to look at and focus on, and then...
Normally it's the 19 Crimes bottle over there that I stare at, or like that general vicinity, but... No.
Yeah, I'm usually looking at the mugs on the wall, which are distracting, so I closed my eyes. And this time I was looking like in the void between the chair. Anyways, happy Thursday. Happy other birthday to us. It's our episode bookends, not bookends. They are, what am I saying? Our anniversary is right between last episode and this episode. So I feel like we still get to say
happy anniversary to us.
Happy birthday to us. Birth-aversary.
Birth-aversary. I mean, a birthday is an anniversary.
It is.
So
it's true.
Speaking of birthdays, somebody had a birthday this past weekend. Oh, wait, did we already talk about his birthday last week?
I think we did.
Yeah.
But
Critters 2.
That is insane.
You can ask him. He'll tell you.
Will he?
Yeah.
Aww.
Well, how old are you? 2.
I'm going to ask him.
He does this. He doesn't do this yet. He crosses his fingers. That's 2.
What we didn't mention was the terrible gift that you gave him. Oh my gosh. It was basically a Roomba.
It's a hover puck. So
it looks and sounds like a kitty Roomba.
So you know how there's the air hockey table where the air levitates the puck?
Yeah.
It's like that, except the puck generates its own air. It has little fans and it hovers. So you can use it, you can kick it as like a little soccer ball thing, or you can, hit it with a hockey stick. Yeah. And it works both on the hardwood and the carpet, which was impressive. Yeah. And I was like, this is fun. I mean, it is rated for 3 and up.
Whatever. But
he's a little, he's a very wary child in general. And he was not a fan of the noise that it made.
But
which is just a little like a computer fan kind of a thing.
But the best part was when you were like, okay, that's fine, we'll turn it off. I knew you maybe weren't a big fan. And then he went and got the box that it came in and handed it to you. And was like, no, put it back where it came from.
Put it away, Mom. Put it away. And then get it out of my cell. Like he's
like, return it to the store.
He was very upset.
He was really
until
upset.
It was boxed up and then out of his sight. But then the next gift he opened was also mine.
Yes.
And it is still one of his favorites right now.
Good.
He plays with it every day, morning and evening.
Wow. Okay, good to know. Putting it on my list.
Redemption there.
Oh, well, I think we need to jump into this because there's a lot to get through.
Okay.
This is a 2-parter.
Oh.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and give a content warning. I'm really sorry. There is some violence done to a child. Okay. So let me tell you. Okay. We're going to be talking.
You better tell me.
We're going to be talking about the Lindbergh kidnapping.
I see.
Are you familiar?
I am familiar, but not in depth, which I'm sure
Okay.
we're going in depth because there's 2 parts.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and say I am currently reading a book called Hopman's Ladder, which just details the case. It's by Richard T. Cahill. It's a great book. However, if you're going to read it, know that he did not put any content warnings on there, and there needs to be, and I will explain later. Okay.
He goes in depth about what happens, right?
Yes, that was unpleasant. He includes a picture that I think should not have been published.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. But before we get to that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Charles Lindbergh. He's your first picture, if you want to look at him.
Which one of my felt characters is he?
Oh, he can be whichever one you want.
No.
Okay, Charles Lindbergh. He was born February 4th, 1902 in Detroit, Michigan, to U.S. Congressman Charles August Lindbergh and Evangeline Land. His parents divorced when he was 7, and so he moved around a lot. He was never at one school for more than a year. And when he
Why?
finished,
Like,
I guess,
what did his parents do? Like, did he just go from parent to parent?
I think that was part of it. I think his parents were moving, and then he was also like going,
like, living with mom for a year, and then dad for a
I
year,
guess.
and then mom moved in with mom's new husband or something.
I don't know.
Who knows?
But after high school, he began studying at the College of Engineering at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. But he dropped out his sophomore year to begin flight training in Lincoln, Nebraska. Spoiler, the flight training really took for him. He really liked it. He actually made his first solo, technically cross-country flight, which was from Americus, Georgia to Montgomery, Alabama. So I think it just means like state to state.
Okay, I was like, that's not cross country.
It was called, I don't know. It was 140 miles. He did that with only 5 hours of solo flight time. So he just, you know.
He just knew. So yeah, that's the thing is like Lindbergh is synonymous. Like you hear the name, first thought, Lindbergh baby.
Yes.
Second thought, aviation.
Yes.
And for some reason, I always think like blimps, and that's probably because Lindbergh sounds kind of like, or like similar to Hindenburg.
Yeah, it does.
That's just where my brain jumps.
Between 1924 and 1927, he worked as an air mail pilot, so delivering mail. He also did a lot of work as a barnstormer, which I had to look up what that meant. It's just performing tricks in a plane for entertainment.
I knew the phrase, and I was sitting here trying to remember what it was, but yeah.
I don't feel like the name really lends to what it is about. Okay, so May 20th and 21st of 1927 is when Lindbergh successfully flew from Long Island, New York to Paris, France. It was the first solo transatlantic flight and also the longest at the time. It was 3,610 miles, and it took him 33 and a half hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And also he didn't get a lot of sleep the night before. But I think he said by like hour 2 or 3, he was already sleepy, and it was like,
not ideal.
Not ideal.
33
and a half hours.
Aren't you glad that...
Oh, gosh.
What's that flight now? Like 10 hours, maybe?
Maybe like 10 or 12. Yeah. I guess if you're starting from New York, you're already... But... So this immediately made him like a national and international hero. So he is now America's sweetheart, essentially. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone loves him. He's a big celebrity.
And he's very handsome.
On May 27th of 1929, he married Anne Morrow, which is your next picture, because she's also beautiful.
A stunner.
Oh, gosh. She's so beautiful. Be, right?
So, that chin, that strong chin.
He's got that dimpled chin, I know. a year after they got married on June 22nd of 1930, they had their first child, which is your third picture. Go ahead and look at it. The first three pictures are just introducing people.
That's fine.
Their first child, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr.
Oh, with his little dog.
I know. He also has a little dimple in his chin. I don't know if it shows in any of those pictures.
In that one.
He's so cute.
Little curly-haired boy.
I know. Curly blonde hair. Just so cute. He was the first of what would eventually be 6 children. But for now, he's their only one. Also, I feel like I need to take a moment to mention some of the weird / problematic traits of Charles Lindbergh, because there are some.
All right.
Okay, so I'll start with
He's got some red flags?
Yeah, you could say that. Which is weird because I know all this about him, and then I'm reading the story and I'm also like, man, I really feel for him, like, as a human father. But
I feel like you can not like someone, but also not wish bad things on
I would
them,
not
or
wish,
like feel bad for
yeah,
them.
I would not wish this situation on anyone. Mm-mm. I think maybe it was just he this sounds terrible that he was showing like very empathetic human traits of like, I don't know. Okay. I'm starting with the minor ones, which is years later when they had a bunch of kids. He apparently kept track of each child's infractions, such as gum chewing, even though he only saw his children a few months out of the year. So he was gone a lot, but he still really needed to like micromanage their behavior.
Was he keeping tabs only when he was present, or was he getting like reports from the nanny kind of a thing?
I think he was probably getting reports from the nanny. He also insisted that Anne track every single penny of household expenses in like multiple ledgers, just keeping track of everything to the penny. I think something even said, even down to buying a bag of rubber bands. Like, you're not spending a cent without Charles knowing about it. Interestingly, a 2013 Slate article suggested that Charles had obsessive compulsive personality disorder.
I was gonna say, he sounds a little OCD, and by a little OCD, I mean he actually has obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yes.
Not how everyone likes to say, oh, I like things clean, I have a little OCD. No, that's not OCD, honey.
And
no.
What's interesting, this article was about like a bunch of notable business moguls. So like Thomas Jefferson, Steve Jobs, Estee Lauder were also mentioned. And it mentions that OCPD is different than OCD. So OCPD is, in both of those, you have obsessive thoughts that you can't control. Mm-hmm. But with OCPD, those thoughts like drive you and inspire you, and like you're kind of like a workaholic. And with OCD, which I'm very familiar with, those thoughts paralyze you with fear and you can't do anything about it. Which I think is interesting. I feel like it's like just how people react to the same thing. Like it's still an intrusive, obsessive thought, but for some people, it makes them want to stay up all night and work until you figure out this problem that's stuck in your head. And for other people, it makes you want to stay in bed and never go into the world because you're scared.
I can depending, I guess, on the situation or whatever, I can find myself on either end of that spectrum. Yeah. And I think I don't think I have really OCD or OCPD. Mm-hmm. I think this is more like ADHD, hyperfocus.
Yeah.
But there are times that like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I cannot get back to sleep because my brain is just running, and like trying to sort through and solve a problem.
Yeah.
And it's like my body and everything is too tired. Like,
yeah,
I'm too tired to be awake, but I'm too awake to sleep. Mm-hmm. And like my brain is just,
it won't stop.
Go. And again, that's probably more of the ADHD than anything.
Yeah.
Because I do have like the little tics that people often attribute to OCD. Mm-hmm. which isn't quite the case where, like, yes, I'm very particular, like, if a volume knob has numbers or whatever, it has to be on even number. My food cannot touch.
Yeah.
But my understanding is people with OCD, it's more the volume has to be on an even number, or
Something
one of my relatives will die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And or I have to turn the light switch on and off 10 times before I leave a room.
Mm-hmm.
Or something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's more OCD as I understand it.
I think it's very fear-driven.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But this does explain a lot of stuff about Charles Lindbergh, so...
Well, he just sounds hella controlling, but, like, OCD... Yes. Like, you have to be very in control of your environment and everything in your life because it's a compulsion, you know, like, you just have to be on top of it or else.
Yes. So another thing about Charles, he fathered 7 other children with various overseas mistresses.
Well, he just fell out of favor in my book.
Yeah, so not a great... To be fair, I don't think that was happening at the time of our story, but later he does sleep around a lot.
As part of his grief?
I don't know.
That's such BS. Such BS.
In 1938, he accepted the Commander Cross of the Order of the German Eagle from Hermann Göring on behalf of Adolf Hitler. 1938, so like...
That's a little too late in the game.
Many people, including President Roosevelt, thought he was a Nazi sympathizer at very least.
He and Adolf had a demand for perfection in common.
He was very outspoken about not supporting U.S. involvement in World War II. He was also very publicly pro-eugenics and
not surprising at all,
and mildly anti-Semitic. So
I don't care if it's mildly or raging.
Yeah,
if you're anti-Semitic, you're asshole.
Like, there's a quote where he references the Germans' Jewish problem, and it's like, no, we're not. That's not the side of history we're taking. But
no, don't hate anyone for their religion or their race
or their.
Let's just not hate people.
Skin color, yeah. Okay, so that's the problematic side of Charles. I just didn't want to tell the story about him without.
Oh yeah, no.
With people thinking like
we don't want rose-colored glasses. He's not just like this poor. We don't need any more poor white men.
Poor white guy who's really attractive.
Hence the
14
handsome. Children.
I know, good grief. Okay, so
that's only the mistresses who conceived.
I know,
and gave birth, and that we know of.
Also, how freaking fertile is he? Oh my gosh, he's got 6 children with Anne, 7 with other.
Dude, that's why the whole.
It's the woman's.
That's why
problem.
Tube tying is so stupid as like a preferred method over vasectomies because
the men are
a woman can only get pregnant and give birth once every 9 months.
Oh, I guarantee
max.
At least 2 of those mistresses were pregnant at the same time.
A man can impregnate more than 9 women in a single day.
Oh my gosh. Hello, Nick Cannon. Yeah. So, in the summer of 1930, Charles and Anne began construction on a home in New Jersey known as the Sourland Estate because it was near the Sourland Mountains, which I didn't know New Jersey had mountains. I learned something. This was on 390 acres of property that occupied both Hunterdon and Mercer County. So a multi-county property.
Hate to have to do taxes on that place.
I know. They chose it for its seclusion and privacy because at this point the press was still he was a celebrity, so everyone wanted to know what he was doing. The house was completed in 1931, and by 1932, the Lindberghs, which at this point is Charles, Ann, and Charles Jr., were spending weekends there. So they weren't living there full-time, just weekends.
It's kind of like our place, Sycamore Ridge.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of April, Charles Jr. got a little cold, and he was just getting over it, and Anne started to get sick too, something I'm sure you're familiar with.
I've been there.
Been there.
Once or twice.
Yeah. So they had been staying at Sourland, and they
Did his cold make it into the book of infractions? Weak immune system. Failed to fight off germs.
We'll never know. We might know. I don't know. But they had been staying at Sourland, and they were like, we're gonna stay a few more days because, no one's feeling well. So Tuesday, March 1st, 1932, Anne asked their nursemaid, Betty Gow, to come over and help with Charles Jr. so that she could get some rest. So Betty came over, and it was that evening around 7:30 p.m. she started getting Charles Jr. ready for bed. So she dressed him in a flannel shirt that she had made for him. Oh, and the book said she wanted to make him something special, but since he had been sick, so she took like a flannel jumper or something and just made a little shirt for him. So she puts him in that. Then she puts a regular shirt on over that. He's wearing rubber pants over his diaper, I guess for leaks.
I guess that was a thing.
And also a sleeping suit. Also, metal thumb guards, which are a fun little contraption that people used to put on their children to keep them from sucking their thumbs. They look weird. It looks like a splint for your thumb. So he's got his little thumb guards.
His outfit.
In his outfit.
Yeah, well, I guess at that time it was cloth diapers, so they would need the rubber pants. That one makes sense.
Yes.
I feel like you'd get real toasty in that.
Yeah.
And then sleep suit, it's probably a sleep sack.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Which is basically a wearable blanket.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Walker has finally graduated from his sleep. He doesn't sleep in his sleep sack anymore.
Well, what do you do when you sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?
I just pick him up and he fights me.
Oh.
Until I've got him and he succumbs.
You pick him up and he fights you.
We get into a brawl. It's fine.
Okay, so Charles Jr. has his little outfit on, and then she tucks him into bed with a blanket that is pinned to the mattress with 2 safety pins. So he's not going anywhere. He's pinned into bed, which I just think is adorable.
I put Walker's blanket on, and he turns, and then he turns another way, and there's no more blanket.
Yeah. Well, try pinning it with safety pins to the mattress, but I'm sure that's still safe.
Maybe I should do that with Shelton, because he turns and brings the blanket with him, and he turns him into a little burrito.
I could do that with Jarek when he's on his side, and then just 2 minutes later rolls onto his back and starts snoring. I'll pin him to his. This is perfect. So they're onto something, just for adults. Okay, so
some thumb guards too.
Yes,
just for fun.
Just for funsies. Okay, so he's in bed. She goes to the window. The shutters on that side of the house do not close all the way because they're warped, which seems like if you're rich enough to have 390 acres, you could fix the warping problem, but whatever.
Wait, did they build once they bought, or did they buy a house that was already on?
No, they built the house.
And they're already having...
I don't know.
Things
guess.
are already warped?
That's what I'm saying.
How long... Wait,
the
what's the timeline again?
The house was finished, I'm assuming late 1931, and it is now March of 1932. Because they started...
How are they already warped?
I don't know. It makes me feel better about my wonky warped floorboards, though. I'm like, well, the Lindberghs also had some warping problems.
Even rich people have crooked houses.
Rich people have crooked houses. So she closes the shutters as far as they will go. And then she leaves the window open a crack for air because this child is bundled to within an inch of his life.
He's wearing rubber pants and a flannel shirt And another shirt.
And a sleep sack.
Under his sleep sack. Under his blanket.
Under his blanket. Yeah. Poor kid.
He's toasty.
He is toasty.
I mean, I know this is March in New Jersey in the mountains, so there probably is still like significant chill to the air outside.
Yes, true.
And it's not like they had central heating and air at the time.
No. Okay, so she leaves. At 7:50, she goes to check on him. He's asleep, so we're good. Charles comes home from whatever he was doing. They eat dinner. Everyone eats dinner. They eat a late dinner. It's like 8:30 when they eat dinner.
That's when Shelton used to like to eat dinner. That was like early.
Oh gosh, that's what happens to me on Mondays because I get back
is at 7
at the latest. I get back from Lyra so late on Mondays and Jarek's working on the podcast, so I have to make my own food, which sounds very spoiled of me. But Jarek usually,
when you say it out loud,
Jarek usually cooks for me. But by the time I get back, it's usually 8:30, and then I'm making food, so it's almost always after 9 before I'm sitting down to eat. And I'm just like, I know this isn't great, but it's better than not eating.
Well, it's one night a week.
True. And
it is better than not eating.
I ate at 5:30 today because I got home and I was hungry.
That's when I normally eat dinner. I eat dinner between 5:30 and 6 because that's Walker's dinner time.
Eat when you're hungry.
Eat when your toddler's hungry.
Or eat when your toddler's hungry. Okay.
Which is all the time.
So at 9:05 p.m., after Charles and Anne have eaten, they're sitting in the sitting room or whatever. Charles said he heard something that sounded like, quote, the top slats of an orange crate falling off a chair, which is a very specific description. He assumed it had come from the kitchen where I guess they had orange crates. I don't know. But Anne hadn't heard anything. So he was like, it was probably nothing then. It was probably, you hear something and your spouse doesn't hear it and you're just like, I guess it wasn't anything. Unless it sounded like a bug. And then Jarek has to get out of bed and go check.
Bugs. Ghost bugs.
Okay. At 10 o'clock, Betty went to check on Charles again. And this time, he was not in his crib. The blanket was still pinned to the mattress. So he couldn't have, gotten himself out of bed. So she immediately checks with both Anne and Charles and is like, did you come get the baby by chance? Please say yes. And neither one of them obviously had. So now the baby is missing. So
this is like my worst fear.
I know. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So they go to the room. Charles finds a white envelope near the windowsill, and there are smudges of yellow clay or mud on the chest below the window. But luckily, Charles, who is a micromanager, says, no one touch anything, including this envelope that we probably all really want to open. Don't touch anything. We're going to call the police. So he has one of his servants, Oliver Watley, call the local police. And then Charles calls his attorney, who I guess was also his friend, convenient, named Colonel Henry...
Rich people.
I know. Colonel Henry Breckenridge. And then they also called the New Jersey State Police. Yeah,
no, I mean, if an infant, or any kind of a child, if any child is missing, you want feds involved.
Yes. And
because feds have the resources.
Charles Jr., I think, was 20 months at this point, so he was just shy of 2. I know, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to give everyone context. Sorry. What is Jarek cooking? It smells like the house is burning down.
It kind of smells like popcorn almost.
As
also, he's been very quiet.
I know.
I haven't heard him come home. I was literally just like, I smell food, but I don't think Jarek's home. Am I having a stroke?
No, I smelled burnt toast in our house the other day and thought I was having a stroke. He also did light the stove on fire the other day.
Sounds like a Jarek thing to do.
So I am understandably a little wary of him being in the kitchen. Okay.
It smells a little like burnt popcorn, but not fully burnt, but slightly burnt.
I don't know. I feel like the house is going to be smoky when we leave.
Yeah. Maybe he's frying some chicken or something.
Okay. So, police have been called. While they're waiting for the police, Charles gets a rifle and goes outside with Oliver, the servant. So underneath the window, they find impressions in the mud. And then about 70 feet away from that, they find a 2-piece ladder. And then 10 feet from that, they find the 3rd piece to the ladder. Your last picture is a picture of the ladder, if you are also confused about what these pieces mean. It's just a ladder that fits together, but I was confused.
Context clues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just 3 pieces.
God, that is an old-timey ladder.
Right? Looks a little...
Very spaced out.
a little rickety. So local police arrive around 10:30 p.m. They also search outside, and they find the impressions underneath the window. Also, here they find footprints leading away from the impressions, but the footprints are not shoe prints. So they described it as someone who had a cloth covering their shoe or who was just walking in socks. So not like a distinctive shoe print. They also find the ladder pieces, obviously, and near that they find a wooden dowel pin used to hold the pieces together and a wood chisel. Not a wooden chisel, a wood chisel. So they find all these things and they're like, let's wait for the state police to show up before we do anything. So they leave everything outside and go back inside. When state police arrive, they also find all the same evidence.
Good.
They go outside and look around.
Good.
They
I was worried you were going to say they couldn't find anything because somebody come back and taken it away.
Well, they didn't document or collect anything. They're just like observing.
Fingerprinting wasn't a thing back then, right?
It was.
Thing. I was.
You can take a drink because that's my next point, actually.
I can never remember like the timeline in the history of forensics.
It wasn't the best fingerprinting. So, state trooper, I don't know his first name. His last name is Kelly. He was assigned to dust for fingerprints. Even though he was not, quote, not particularly experienced in that. So he's just dusting the nursery. They're not doing any outside stuff yet. So first thing he dusts is the envelope, because we all want to look inside there. There are no usable prints found. And then they open it, and there aren't any usable prints on the letter. But the letter says, and you have a picture of the letter if you'd like to try to follow along.
Oh, Lord.
With me. Okay.
Oh, my.
Yes. Dear sir, have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in 20 bills, $15,000 in 10 bills, and $10,000 in 5 bills. After 2 to 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn you for making anything public or for notifying the police. The child is in good care. Indication for all letters are signature and 3 holes. And I read that the way I think it was supposed to be said, not phonetically, because there are a ton of spelling errors. For example, it actually says, we warn you for making any ding public or for notify the police the child is in good care. Also, they mentioned that the handwriting looked, if not childish, at least messy. And they also noticed that the sentence structure...
This makes my handwriting look legible.
Katie, there's like 7 ransom notes in this story. I did not print all of them. I just printed the one because it was a headache. So they thought the sentence structure of the letter was similar to German. Also with kind of the misspellings and the putting the number sign after the number. I guess that was a European thing to do. So their first kind of idea is that this is at least someone
the dollar sign?
Yeah, what did I say?
The number sign.
Oh, number sign. Dollar sign. Sorry. At least this is someone whose first language is not English. But they're strongly leaning towards German.
Probably because of his German ties.
Yes.
He's got some contacts.
Yeah. So the signature he mentioned at the bottom was 2 blue intersecting circles, like a Venn diagram. And then in the middle, there was a solid red circle. And then there were 3 holes punched in the paper. One in the middle of the red circle and then 2 outside of the intersecting circles. And then there's like some wavy lines in the middle. It's very distinctive.
It's bizarre.
But that's how they know going forward which letters are actually from the kidnapper.
I mean, it's clever for the kidnapper's stance to, put a very distinctive signature so that
Jokes.
He
said, do you smell toast again? Yes. Sorry. Yes, very smart to put a distinctive, and especially because they don't release that part to the press.
Mm-hmm.
So
when they get copycat letters,
they know for
they
sure.
know.
Yeah. So meanwhile, reporters have somehow heard of what's going on, and they're gathering outside. And they're gathering near the ladder. So
if anything's going to have usable prints, maybe that one.
Maybe that. So police bring the ladder inside to keep it from being damaged, but they don't photograph it first. So they just bring it inside. After they bring it inside, they discovered, and I guess after they shooed the press away, they discovered footprints near where it had been. They're leading southwest across the property. When they follow them, they go past like a old chicken coop or whatever, an old building, and then they disappear at the road where there's tire tracks that just kind of lead away. So police thought that this was like a major lead for them. However, they didn't photograph the prints. They didn't make any casts of the prints, and they didn't measure the tire tracks. But they're still like, oh, look, the tracks of the kidnapper.
That's interesting. Let's go this way.
Yeah. However, these footprints were made by, quote, a rubber boot or overshoe. So that's not consistent with the prints by the window, which are sock prints, I guess. They also found dog paw prints near these prints, which indicated that this person had a dog with them, which probably was not someone who was kidnapping a child stealthily in the night.
Yeah.
Also, they hadn't been discovered the first several times that ladder was observed. Also, they were discovered after the press had been all over the place. So, we're thinking that maybe the press made these, someone from the press made these prints, and they're just a red herring.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Kelly dusts the ladder and the chisel for prints. He finds none. He did find that the mud in the nursery matched the mud outside. So, good job, Kelly, I guess. And pictures were finally taken of the footprints outside the window and of the ransom note. So we're finally doing something. So the state police set up headquarters in the Lindbergh's garage. And they essentially turned their home into like a hotel for them.
Yes.
So
I would 100% be like, yes, come on in here, set up headquarters, find my child.
Find the child.
Find him.
Yesterday would be great. And obviously the news has broken and the world is like obsessed immediately because this was America's baby sweetheart. He was little Lindy is what they called him.
So glad you got me the stress ball because I really need it tonight.
I'm so sorry. So President Hoover announced that all federal agencies, including the FBI and the CIA, would offer their full cooperation in the investigation.
Is this before the FBI immediately became, like, whenever there is a child kidnapping getting involved? I'll take another sip. Based on your face, I'll take a sip. Based on my face.
Congress began discussions on making kidnapping a federal offense. It had been proposed the previous year, and it would be signed into law in June of that year.
Wow.
And they called
March to June. That is fast for Congress.
So they called, I don't know what the official name was, but they called it the Lindbergh Law, which made crossing state lines with a kidnapped person a federal offense. Fun fact, many of our Alcatraz boys got nabbed on this. Machine Gun Kelly, Thomas Limerick, who was another would-be escapee, but he was, I think, killed during the escape.
Machine Gun Kelly?
Machine Gun Kelly. That's, I think, what he finally went away for was kidnapping.
Is that why the rapper today or whatever he is just decided to have that name.
I don't know. But
I don't know anything about him. He's married to Megan Fox.
Are they married?
Aren't they?
I don't know.
I don't know. I get random pop-ups of celebrity things on my Facebook feed, and I'm just like, I don't interact with it, but I see random things like, oh, Machine Gun Kelly said this thing, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. And then it has a picture of him with wife or girlfriend Megan Fox.
Yeah.
And the only reason he's in my brain at all is because watching Love is Blind now with the...
the girl who said she looked like Megan Fox.
She don't.
She doesn't. It's okay. I'm mad that when I want to look up the actual Machine Gun Kelly, I have to put Machine Gun Kelly gangster to clarify. But if you look him up, he's like kind of the aesthetic that we were going for with Jarek for Halloween, and apparently something I'm really into. So just that, there it is. Okay, so him, Thomas Limerick, Ted Cole kidnapped a guy and took him to Illinois. Sam Shockley got taken in on federal kidnapping charges. Miran Thompson and Clarence Carnes, who were both part of the escape from Alcatraz, both federal kidnapping charges. So you can thank the Lindbergh case.
You get a Lindbergh law. You get a Lindbergh law. You get a Lindbergh law.
Everyone gets federal charges. It's great. Descriptions of Charles Jr. were sent to every police agency in the country. And basically this is just...
That's a lot.
It's so many. Basically this is all the world cares about right now. Understandably.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like anytime the royal family has a baby, that's all the world cares about. Like,
yes.
You literally had a party when they got married.
Yes, I did. No, well...
Yeah, when they got married. You had a royal wedding party.
I guess I did do it for both.
I
just did it for Meghan and Harry, who are technically not royal anymore.
Yeah, I guess it was. I don't know. I remember going to your house. It was
Jarek's old apartment.
Yeah, it was Jarek's old apartment.
Uh-huh.
And it was like an awkward time.
It was at like 4 a.m. I had mimosas and muffins.
Yeah. No, maybe it wasn't that early, but it was like 7. But was it on a Saturday or was it on a Sunday?
I don't know, but no one actually watched the wedding with me.
No.
Y'all all came over afterwards.
Yeah, we came after.
I cried through the wedding.
Had a drink and some snacks. And I was like, I am here for Hannah because I could give 2 shits about this wedding. And I think there was something going on after. So it was like, I could come by for a little bit, but then I have to go to this other
And
thing.
Jarek was working, so I was just alone for the day. But yeah, I enjoyed my royal wedding party. I would do it again. I'll rewatch it if that wedding is so beautiful.
I'll come to another royal wedding party if I don't actually have to pay attention and watch the wedding, because I don't care.
You don't. That'll be fine.
So the world is watching for baby Lindy.
Yes. So Charles is essentially in charge of the investigation by his choice, not by the police's choice. He's micromanaging everything, which again, understandable if that's like already a personality trait of yours.
Well, that's his like grief and like that's his stress management.
Yeah.
He's probably stressed. That's how he. So I mean, again, not a psychologist, but you mentioned that like for most, if not all of his like childhood and early adolescence, he wasn't at a school for longer than a year.
Yeah.
So like all of his formative years were just kind of this chaos of constant change and flux, and probably his coping mechanism for dealing with the constant change, and like here one year, there next year somewhere different. And like he's constantly got all this new thrown at him. Yeah. And so just trying to have everything kind of organized and controlled, and like keeping tabs of like, okay, this is how this works, and this is how this works, and this is this order. Yeah. Probably helped ground him, I guess, and like make him feel comfortable and just help him cope with the constant changing of his world and environment. And also if he was just being moved here, there, and everywhere, he had no control over this major facet of his life. So he sought to have control over everything that he could. Yeah. And I'm sure that just kind of, expanded as he got older.
Yeah. Well, and also in a situation like this, I can imagine that you would want to just be doing anything.
Yes.
Other than not sitting there and
not
thinking
sitting
about
and
it.
waiting.
Yeah.
No, like even if you are just rewriting someone's notes or just copying things, you're doing something.
Well,
you are taking active steps
yes.
at solving this problem.
Yes. And if you're Charles Lindbergh and you have the kind of influence that he has, you can run the whole investigation.
And by influence, you also mean money.
We mean money. So they immediately place two, not really ads, but like appeals in the newspaper the day after the kidnapping, promising to cooperate with the kidnapper, and promising that they would keep his identity secret. Essentially, Charles was saying, I don't care about catching you. Yeah. I just want my kid back. Yeah. So, like,
we'll meet your demands.
We're not going to try to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Just give us our baby back.
Give us our baby. We'll get you the money.
Yeah.
And you can go. You can go free. You can leave with the money.
We don't care. We'll probably up our security a little bit, but as long as we have our kid back,
yeah,
that's all that matters.
I mean,
and
that's every parent, right?
Yeah. And that was his focus, like, the whole time. He, like, other people wanted to kind of do both. Like, well, we need to catch them and prosecute them. And he was very much like, whatever it takes to get my child back is what I want.
Kid back first, then you can go find the bad guy.
Do your stuff later.
We'll seek justice later. Kid first, justice second.
Yes.
Unless the kid's name is Justice.
No. So there was a short period of time where Charles thought that like the mob was involved, and he was bringing in...
Why would the mob be involved? Did he have mob connections? Has he pissed off a mob boss? See, if you're going to say that you think it's the mob, you need to have reasons, because
this is true.
The mob don't do shit without reason.
True.
They are not a willy-nilly organization.
No. Very, very much not. That's why it's called organized crime.
Exactly. See, he could respect that with his whole, like, everything needs to be organized and kept track of.
Well, he brought in one small-time criminal named Mickey Rosner, who had mob connections. The police did not like this. But I
don't know if there's ever been a story about a Mickey anybody that wasn't a criminal. Except for maybe Mickey Dolenz.
Yeah. Mickey is also my favorite character on Shameless, and he is famously a criminal. Anyways, this is just kind of like an example of Charles has an idea in his head. The police are like, we don't have any reason to believe it's organized crime. And Charles is like, I think it might be. I'm bringing in this guy. I don't care if you like him or not. We're doing this. We're exploring every option. Okay. Mickey, by the way, was not helpful at all. It was not the mob.
Was he monkeying around? Sorry. I said Mickey Dolenz was the only Mickey that I knew of that wasn't a criminal. And he's from the band The Monkees. Okay.
He was not monkeying around.
He was not monkeying around. Oh, no, he was monkeying around.
Well, that one was, yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. On March 4th.
Sorry, I love the Monkees.
Okay. On March 4th, a second ransom letter is received. Same atrocious handwriting and misspellings, and it also has the signature at the bottom. So in this one, the kidnapper stated that he had been following the investigation in the papers. He says, don't worry, your baby is fine. He's in great health. However, I am increasing the ransom from $50,000 to $70,000, which, I forgot to look up how much $70,000 was in 1932.
That's very unlike you.
I know. I was very focused on this story. He wasn't happy with all of the press, and he said, I'm going to wait until things quiet down before I arrange this ransom drop, which good luck with that. He also said that they had been planning this kidnapping for a year, so they were willing to wait. They're like, we've already waited a year. We can wait however long it takes for the press to chill out. The very next day, a note was sent to Colonel Breckenridge at his law office. And the note said, "Give this letter to Charles Lindbergh." That note, and the kidnapper is kind of worried that Charles hadn't received his first letter from the previous day, because I guess they didn't respond to it quickly.
Because they're not trying to incite the press.
Right.
They want the press to calm down.
Yes. So he says, "I'll just correspond through Breckenridge now, but I need you to put a notice in the New York American about this letter, so that I know that you got it," because he was worried that the police were intercepting the mail. So the Lindberghs replied the following day. They put a notice in the paper that essentially authorized these two gangsters, Salvi Spatale and Irving Bitts, to act as their go-between for the kidnapper. Because they were like, maybe he had said something in the letter about maybe wanting a representative, so he wasn't dealing with just them. So they were like, here's two guys that you can communicate with, and they'll tell us, like, if that's what you want. Also, we promise to cooperate. Can't emphasize that enough. Okay. On March 8th, this guy named John F. Condon sent a very, very, very long-winded letter to the Bronx Home News. So Condon is 72. He was described as, quote, a minor celebrity in town. I couldn't figure out what he did to make him that way. He was a semi-retired teacher, principal, and coach of various children's sports. And I think he was just like a big personality. Mm-hmm. He was very self-important.
Yeah. I mean, you said a long-winded letter, like, so it's long-winded. Unprompted. Who is this guy that he needs to write some sort of long-winded letter?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was also a big fan of Charles Lindbergh. So he's following the story and, like, really invested in it, and then also thinks he's the most important person in the world and has all this influence.
And obviously his opinion matters. Because...
Right. So this letter he writes essentially to the kidnapper to be published in the paper. He offered an additional $1,000 if the kidnapper would turn the baby into a priest. What? And by that, I mean hand the baby over, not magically transform him into a priest.
That wasn't what I was asking. What about? Like, why do we have to get a priest? Just hand him back to his parents.
Because Condon pointed out that priests keep secrets good.
Oh, gosh.
So he's like, give it to a priest and the priest won't tell anyone who you are. He also said a lot of other stuff that is not important.
Oh, no, he thinks it's important.
He did think it was important, yes. However, he didn't really expect to get a reply, but the next day he got a reply. Meaning he got a letter from the kidnapper.
A letter, or was it in the newspaper?
It was a letter actually delivered to his house. So in the letter, the kidnapper essentially asked Condon to be the go-between he like rejected the Lindbergh's suggestion and was like, nope, I'm picking this guy. So he said, you be the go-between, and I want you to put a notice in the New York America that says money is ready, and that's how I'll know that you've accepted this task. And also, there's another letter in here for Charles. Please give it to him. So Condon, lucky for him, gets to meet his hero and goes to the Sauerland estate after calling first. He calls and, like, explains, and he reads Charles the letter, and Charles is like, okay, whatever. And he says, is there anything else on there? And he's like, yeah, there's this weird symbol at the bottom. And he describes it, and that's when Charles is like,
okay, yeah, you can come here.
Over, please.
Yeah. Please come and bring this letter that you received, and also go ahead and deliver that one that's for me.
Yes. So they talk. The Lindberghs are like, yes, we'll do whatever. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if he wants you to be the go-between, you're the go-between.
Yeah. Kidnapper says, we'll do it.
That's what we do. So on March 11th, they put an ad in the paper that says, I accept, money is ready. That same day, Condon, received a phone call at home. And the man on the phone had a German accent and he said, "Did you receive my note with the signature?" And Condon noticed that the way he said signature was signature, like signature, which was how it was spelled phonetically in the letters. So he was like, this might be an important person.
He might be legit.
It might be legit. So the man told him to stay home from 6 to 12 and that he would receive another note with instructions. And then Condon said at one point it sounded like the man was talking to someone else who might be there. And right before he hung up, Condon heard a woman on the other end yell, "Stati zitto," which is Italian, that I hope I pronounced correctly, for shut up. So some Italian woman is in the background being like, "Shut up. Stop talking." So Condon tells Colonel Breckenridge about what's happening. And they decide to get the money together. They're like, we'll go ahead and get the money together. And we're going to have a box made to put it in. Because in the letter to Charles, the second letter, the third, whatever, the last letter that Charles read.
That came through Condon. The kidnapper had specified that he wanted the money delivered in a box of specific dimensions. So he was like weirdly specific about it. He drew a picture of the box. So they're like, okay, we're going to have this box made. We're going to have it made with like 5 kinds of wood so that we can recognize it later if it shows up somewhere. Mm-hmm. So they have to order the box to be made. So they're like, put an order in. And the following night, March 12th, which to me, the instructions of stay home from 6 to 12 made it sound like that same day. But well, I guess he was staying home from 6 to 12 that night for another note for more instructions, right? Not specifically right. to...
But that note didn't come until the next day.
Okay.
Which to me is confusing.
Okay.
Unless they just didn't include that he said, stay home tomorrow from 6 to 12. But the following night, March 12th, a stranger knocks on Condon's door around 8:30. It's not the kidnapper. It was, the book was like, the kidnapper has arrived. End of chapter. And then the next chapter was like, oh, this cab driver was sitting in his cab and a man approached him and gave him a letter. So it's the cab driver who shows up. And he had been given a letter by a mysterious German man and was told to bring it to Condon's house. So he does. So the note was...
Obviously, I'm sure he, like, was paid, like, here's $50 if you just bring this letter to that house.
He gave him $1.
$1?
He asked how much the fare would be to drive there, and he said 50 cents. And so he said, here's $1. Take this letter there. And then he walked away.
I mean, I don't know. I guess if I'm a cab driver and, you know, like the fare would cost this and you're getting paid double. Basically, you're getting paid to go there and back.
Yeah.
Then, like, sure, it's something to do, I guess. But I would be hella sketched out, too.
Well, I think originally the cab driver just took the note and was like, okay. And then was, like, chatting with his cab driver buddy. Mm-hmm. And they recognized the address as Condon's address. And his buddy was like, isn't that the guy who's offering $1,000 for the Lindbergh baby? So that's, I think, when he was like, maybe I'll deliver this correctly. So the instructions in this note said, cross the street and follow the fence from the cemetery. Wait, sorry. Go back. That's a different note. There's another note coming up.
Oh, wow.
There's so many notes, Katie. Okay. The note said... go to this specific place. So he said where to go, and you're going to find another note with instructions on where to find. It said where to find him. Again, are you talking about the child or are you talking about yourself, the kidnapper? He meant himself.
It's sending him on a scavenger hunt.
It's a scavenger hunt.
If there wasn't a child's life in the balance, I would be like, this is fun,
right? So Condon follows the instructions. He gets to this like porch of some place, and there's a rock right in the middle of the porch. Underneath the rock is another note, the next piece of the scavenger hunt. So that note says, cross the street and follow the fence from the cemetery. Direction to 233 Street. I will meet you. So Condon does that and goes to Woodlawn Cemetery is where he ends up. And there, after kind of waiting around a little bit, a man shows up. And this man is wearing a dark overcoat, a felt hat with the brim pulled down.
Of course.
And he's holding a handkerchief over his mouth. So he meets Condon from the other side of the gate. So there's a gate separating them. The man had a thick German accent, and he asked Condon if he had brought the money. And Condon said no.
Yeah. You sent me on a wild goose chase. I'm not carrying a box of money. I'm not carrying a box with 70 grand in it.
It's specific bills.
Yeah. Around the city when I don't know where I'm going, where I'm going to end up. Like, no.
Yes. Yeah.
That's impractical.
And to Condon's credit, he said, I need you to give me proof that the child is okay before we arrange to give you any money. And after that part of the conversation, a night watchman from the cemetery shows up and the guy gets spooked. And he runs off, and they said that he scaled the 9-foot gate easily. So I don't know what kind of athletic stuff he's doing, but he just scrambles over a 9-foot, what I'm assuming is a wrought iron gate, and runs off. But Condon chases him. He's like, to the watchman, he's like, I gotta go. This is important.
How old is he again?
72.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but he was apparently in pretty good shape.
Well, he was a, principal and athletics coach.
Yeah, true. So he catches up with this guy and convinces him to sit down with him and, keep talking. So this conversation, all we know is what Condon has said, and Condon was known to, exaggerate things a little bit.
Well, he's very important, so he has to...
Yes.
Really paint the picture of his importance and his involvement in this case.
Yes. And his story is, again, long-winded and unnecessary. There's parts where he's, offering himself as a hostage to be taken so that he can see that the baby's okay. Anyways, the main takeaway points that everyone kind of agrees on is that allegedly this man called himself John, or said, you can call me John. He becomes known as Cemetery John. He told Condon that the baby was being held on a boat, and he said, I will send you his sleep suit as proof, I guess, that we have him, so that I'm legit.
Yeah, but what about proof of life?
Yeah.
That's what we want.
So Condon tells Lindbergh all of this, obviously. So Lindbergh runs an ad in the Bronx Home News that says, baby alive and well, money is ready, call us and see. And then they sign it Jaffsy, because they didn't want to reveal that Condon was their go-between man, and they came up with this code name for him because it was his initials if you said it quickly. So JFC. So JFC. Jaffsy. Which I guess...
With a Long Island accent, yeah.
GFC.
GFs.
So they don't hear anything from that ad. So they put another ad the following 2 days that says, money is ready, no cops, no Secret Service, no press, come alone like last time, please call Jaffsy. So the day after that, Condon receives a package at his home with the address written in the kidnapper's handwriting. So he calls Breckenridge and Lindbergh over to his house. They open the package, and it is Charles Jr.'s sleep suit, which Lindbergh identifies. He also notices that it has been recently washed. And he's like, I wonder why they washed it. There's also another note included, and it says 8 hours after they received the money, they would reveal where the baby was. And that he didn't want to meet in person again because it was too dangerous. So there's several more back and forths with ads and notes. When I say there were so many notes, Katie, it's so hard to keep up with. But eventually, a note was received on April 1st. And in this note, it said that the money needed to be ready by the following evening and asked for Lindbergh to confirm in the paper that this is happening. So Lindbergh did. He's got to have the press or this newspaper on like speed dial. And then they got the money ready. And the way that they did the money is they used, for part of it, they used gold certificates because the U.S. was about to be going off the gold standard. And after a certain date, all gold certificates were going to have to be turned in and like exchanged. So they're like, these
and I'm sure they have like serial numbers or whatever.
Yep.
So they could say, okay, whenever serial number yada 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 gets turned in,
take a note of who
take it. Yeah.
So they also wrote down all the serial numbers, obviously. At the same time that the money is being prepared, or on the same day, back at the Sauerland estate, one of the metal thumb guards is found in the driveway. It wasn't found before because it had been crushed flat, like probably from cars. And also because they weren't searching the front driveway. They were searching back where they thought the kidnapper had run off with his dog. But this indicated, obviously, that the kidnapper had not gone southwest, but had gone out the main driveway. So, on April 2nd, they've got the money together. Condon
in their special box.
Very special box. They receive their instructions, again delivered by a cab driver, to go to a local florist on Tremont Avenue. And there they find another note with further instructions to go to another cemetery. So, Lindbergh stays in the car. Condon goes alone. He meets John again. So, he gives John the box. The box only has $50,000 in it because that's all that would fit. They had to do a second box with the other 20 grand. But he was able to convince the guy to just take the 50 and be okay with it.
That's what you asked for originally. You only upped after it went to press, which you knew it would. So.
Essentially what he said is, this was your original amount. He's also like, it's the Depression, man. We can't do another 20 grand. Unfortunately, what Condon didn't know, because no one had told him, was that most of the gold certificates were what made up the 20 grand. And they were kind of counting on him having those, but it was fine. They still had serial numbers. So he hands over the money, and John gives him an envelope that allegedly was going to reveal the location of Charles Jr. But he said, don't open this until 6 hours later.
No, I'm going to open it right freaking now as soon as your back is turned.
So he takes it back to Lindbergh, who's in the car. He tells him what he said, and Charles is like, okay, well, do what he says. And he puts the letter in his pocket, and then they drive off. But they drive to like a house that Condon owns that's nearby, and then they immediately open the letter.
Okay, good.
They just didn't want to like open it in the car and risk that he was still watching and saw them do it. So they open the envelope, and the note says, the boy is on boat Nellie. It is a small boat, 28 feet long. 2 persons are on the boat. They are innocent. You will find the boat between Horseneck Beach and Gay Head near Elizabeth Island. This did not have the signature on it, but it was in the same handwriting as all the other letters. And the kidnapper had previously said that part of the reason he wanted more money was because they had to bring more people in. Like, they had to hire people for this. And he's like, there's 2 ladies who are completely innocent, but they're taking care of the baby. So, like, we got to pay them. So this is the extra expenses that we're asking for. So, as soon as they have this information, Lindbergh and Breckenridge fly to Martha's Vineyard near Elizabeth Island, which this is where it's very convenient that Charles can fly his own planes. He's actually borrowed a plane from the Navy for this, but he flies around. They get into like Martha's Vineyard around 4 a.m. They fly over the waters for 6 hours looking for this boat, the Nellie. They stop for lunch, and then they keep searching until it's dark, and they never found this boat. The next day, Charles goes out on his own, like with his own plane, looking for this boat. He goes as far south as Virginia on this search. They ended up running another ad in the paper that says, "What is wrong? Have you crossed me? Please better directions, Jafsey." And meanwhile, the serial numbers for the ransom money has been sent to all the banks and been told to look out for. So over the next few weeks, the press is extremely chaotic. Condon's identity as the go-between gets revealed somehow, and Charles just becomes increasingly desperate to find his child because he's like, we gave them the money.
We did what you asked. Where's
like,
my kid?
And you've given us a location, but it doesn't really exist, and you're not communicating anymore. So, like, he's very obviously in a desperate mode. A false lead comes forward who had come forward earlier. There's a lot I had to cut out of this.
I believe it.
But this guy essentially says that he had been in contact with the kidnappers, and, like, they want to meet here and all this stuff. And even though he's, like, very uncredible, Charles is so desperate that he's like, sure, I'll meet wherever you want to meet.
Follow any lead.
Just in case. Exactly. So mostly this involved meeting the kidnappers somewhere on the water. So and they would, like, go out to wherever, and they'd wait. And then this guy would be like, oh, these local fishing boats probably spooked him, and that's why they didn't show up. So I'll talk to them again, and we'll try again another time. So they're doing this. On May 12th, Lindbergh was waiting on a boat. He was waiting for the weather to improve before they could go out for this next meeting or wild goose chase. And that evening, Lieutenant George Richard boarded the boat that they were on, and he told Charles that Charles Jr. had been found. He was found deceased in the woods near a road in Mount Rose. And that's where we're ending part 1.
No.
I know. But
can you confirm
yes,
that the body that they found was indeed
yes.
Charles? Okay.
Yes, they did.
I didn't want a little bait and switch and be like, okay.
No.
Just kidding. It was another dead child.
No, they did find Charles Jr. And this is where I will say, if you are going to read the book, Hauptmann's Ladder by Richard Cahill, on page 96, they show a picture of the child as he was found. And I did not know that was coming, and I saw it by accident, and it's the worst thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think I had a nightmare about it last night, and I genuinely, like, I don't want to say this and make people, like, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, if you want to go see it, look at it. I'm saying it because if you're reading that book, you need to know to, like, be careful when you turn the page. I think it's a horrible thing that he published that picture.
It's something you can't unsee.
Exactly. And I'm doing that thing where I've been traumatized and now I have to share the trauma with other people to get it out.
This tastes awful. Try it.
Oh gosh. And, like, I also needed to read information on that page. And so I had to figure out how to, like, change the format because it was online to, like, have it up high enough.
Just hold your hand in front of it.
So anyways, that's part 1 of the Lindbergh kidnapping.
I guess we're going to figure out how it was found, where it was found.
Yes. You're going to find out all of that and the subsequent trial that is very controversial. So there was some evidence stuff that I left out of this first part because I wanted to make sure we got all the details of, like, the investigation and how it went and how they found him, which essentially the police have not been involved up until this point. So the next part is I'll go into like the evidence that they found and who they end up prosecuting for it and why. Because that's the whole other part of this that's crazy. But sorry, there's going to be another trigger warning.
I don't have nightmares tonight.
Really sorry.
I'm going to go home and go straight up to Critter's room and just, I don't know, lay on the floor next to his crib and just look at him and...
Yeah. I'm sorry,
it's okay.
Everyone.
It's just like my biggest fear these days.
It was also this is one of those stories where I got too deep into it and I was like, well, crap.
We're all coming with you.
Well, we're too deep.
Well, if you want to see the fully appropriate photos
yes.
that we mentioned tonight, you can check out our Facebook and Instagram. Just search the Tales We Tell podcast. If you want to see pictures but don't do the social media, you can check out our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And if you want to support us and get yourself some sweet, sweet swag, you can check out our Redbubble store. Search The Tales We Tell. We've got multiple logos, and you can put that on anything.
Yeah.
And if you want to support us, but you don't need the stuff, you can become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales We Tell. Patrons get early access to episodes, commercial-free listening, sometimes some fun bonus content, and every now and then we'll send out like love notes and stickers, Christmas cards. You know, all the good stuff.
I posted my paranormal security footage to Patreon.
Yeah,
so...
that's a fun one. The ghost bugs.
The ghost bugs. So far, no one's commented. So
I can't wait to hear if anyone does.
It's gonna be like my dad, which we love. I love having my dad as a patron. Anyways, thanks everyone for sticking through this. I was really worried it was going to be super long because I had 7 pages of notes that I cut down to 5.5.
My anxiety kind of kept me quiet.
And I was also very conscious of like, this is really long. I don't want to get bogged down too much. But eat something sweet, everyone, and hug a dog or child. And just be ready because we're going to talk about it some more next week, and it doesn't get better. I mean, we have hit the worst of it, but it doesn't get better from here. It just kind of plateaus with awfulness.
I'm gonna work on a cryptid.
Okay.
Something fun for after this. Something uplifting.
That would be great.
Probably it won't be uplifting. If I'm gonna go with what I'm thinking, it probably won't be uplifting.
No.
But hopefully it won't be dead kids. So
yeah, dead kids the same age as yours. Yeah. So. Anyways,
cute little blonde boys.
I know. God, so cute. I know far too many details now. I gotta go watch something happy.
Yeah.
And drink another glass of wine.
Mm.
So, please come back next week for the conclusion.
Yeah.
And
you gotta know. You gotta know.
And the week after that, we'll have something maybe nicer that doesn't involve dead kids. Yeah. So, see you next week.
Bye-bye.